Sometimes the NFL just doesn't make any sense. Coming into this Sunday, there were two undefeated teams left in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles, both of which were facing backup quarterbacks in their Week 6 matchups. You'd think that they'd come into the games, absolutely rout their opponents, and, continue to go undefeated. That wasn't the case. They both lost. I think probably the most impressive thing about this win is that the Jets came into this game shorthanded. Of course, no Aaron Rodgers, but more than anything, no Sauce Gardner and no DJ Reed. Still didn't matter. They still managed to hold the Eagles to 14 points and came out with the win. It's just a major win for the New York Jets over this undefeated Eagles team. The Jets beat the Eagles 20-14, and frankly, the Eagles blew it. They were up 14-3 late in the second quarter, but they didn't score again. The New York Jets held them to 0 points on their final, I think it was 7 drives of the game. That is super impressive. Greg Zuerlein is really the reason that the Jets stayed in this game. He hit 3 straight field goals to make it 14-12, and the Jets also really couldn't find the end zone, but at the very least, they were able to get into scoring position for Zuerlein to hit those 3 straight field goals. Now, this game came down to the wire. Philadelphia had the ball through the 2-minute warning, and it felt like they were just going to be able to chew clock and maybe even score one more time and send the Jets packing. But that didn't happen. On 3rd and 9, with a minute 50 remaining, Jalen Hurts was intercepted by Tony Adams. This was a bad day for Jalen Hurts. I'll get back to that a little bit later, but right after that play, Breece Hall had an 8-yard touchdown run to make it 20-14 New York Jets. The Eagles got the ball back and they just couldn't move the ball and immediately turned it over on downs, and the New York Jets took the dub. Just an amazing win for the Jets here. Now, Jalen Hurts is a big reason why the Philadelphia Eagles lost. It was an ugly day for him. 280 yards, 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions. He did also have 47 yards rushing and a touchdown rushing. He was their leading rusher on the day. The Eagles' next top rusher was DeAndre Swift with just 18 yards. Just really not good. But to be fair, neither team even had 90 yards rushing total, so it really wasn't great on either side of the ball. Breece Hall had 39 yards and that game-winning touchdown plus 54 receiving yards. And it's not like Zach Wilson even played out of his mind either. I mean, luckily he didn't do anything stupid. He had a pretty boring stat line, 186 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions, so the no interceptions thing is a huge win. Now, his number one target was, of course, Garrett Wilson, who had 90 of those yards, and this win is just incredible for the Jets. To come in and beat an undefeated Eagles team, down 2 of your star corners, and still hold them to 14 points is no doubt impressive. I think what's even funnier is that it's the first time the Jets have ever beaten the Eagles. Before this game, the Eagles were 12-0 against them all time, and the streak's finally over. So at the very least, after this game, there should be some hope stirring up in the Meadowlands. Now, it's no secret that this season hasn't gone as Jets fans expected it to go. Aaron Rodgers was brought in the offseason and was supposed to come in and make the Jets a Super Bowl contender, but he ruptured his Achilles on just his 4th snap with the team. That thrusted Zach Wilson into the starting role, who, by the way, has had plenty of his own issues, and I'm sure Jets fans weren't too stoked about that. But hey, the season started good for them because the Jets were magically able to beat the Bills in week 1. Now, it's not like the offense really won that game for them. I mean, Xavier Gibson had a wild punt return touchdown in overtime to win 22-16. I just remember watching that week 1 game, and there were so many emotions during that game. The mood in that stadium was an absolute roller coaster. To lose the star quarterback that you brought in the offseason that was supposed to take you to the Super Bowl, that stadium was deflated as hell. Then all of a sudden you're in overtime and the fans are going absolutely crazy, and you have a crazy punt return touchdown to win the game, and the crowd went wild. So even though you had just lost Aaron Rodgers, fans were left with some hope. And then the Jets went on to play like, the Jets. They lost 3 straight games. They lost to the Cowboys 30-10, the Patriots 15-10, and then the Chiefs 23-20. But one of those losses really sticks out, and that's the one against the Chiefs, because that Chiefs game really did, I feel like, shift the perspective of having Zach Wilson as your quarterback this season. Zach Wilson played great in that game. It was probably his best game he's played in the pros. Wilson looked calm, composed, and he looked like he was making decent decisions. Now, of course, course, they ended up losing that game because, Zach Wilson had that fumble at the end of the game, but he played well, and he even outplayed Patrick Mahomes, which is something that I never thought I would ever say. Wilson had 245 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Mahomes had 203 yards, 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions. Unfortunately, the Jets just couldn't score late, and it cost them the game. But even though that was a loss, Jets fans left that game feeling pretty good about who they have behind center. Then in week 5, the Nathaniel Hackett game, where it was Nathaniel Hackett versus Sean Payton, the Jets beat the Broncos 31-21 in that super satisfying win. So now they have back-to-back wins. One of those wins coming against a really good team. Now, the Jets currently are sitting at 500 at 3-3, and it really does feel like at this point, if the Jets were to make the postseason, it'll probably have to come as a wild card. The AFC East is a division with a lot of good teams outside of the Patriots. As a Patriots fan, I can confidently tell you they fucking suck. If I had to pick a team to take the division, I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. They feel super secure. They also feel like they're the best team right now. Now, the Bills did beat them a couple weeks ago, and everyone was like, oh, maybe the Bills are back, but I don't feel that confident about the Bills. They feel like a team that plays up to their opponent or plays down to them, and they just don't look consistent whatsoever. Now, the Jets do still have to play the Dolphins twice this season and then go on to play the Bills again. I think they're gonna lose twice to the Dolphins. I just think they're a better team. And then playing the Bills again, I feel like they'll split the series with them. But then again, I don't really know if I want to say the Bills are gonna beat them in that game because they did just take down the Eagles. On the bright side, there are a lot of super winnable games down the stretch and definitely some easier games other than those. They close out September with the Giants, who have been a struggling team all season. Then they play the Chargers and Raiders in October. Raiders also another team that's kind of struggling. Chargers are a team that should be really good but somehow managed to lose. In December, they play the Falcons, Texans, Commanders, and Browns. All of those games could be a competitive match. And then they play the Patriots to close out the year, which at that point the Patriots might just be tanking, so I definitely think they could win that game. This is a team that could absolutely make the postseason and is absolutely good enough to make the postseason. And if they do, maybe Aaron Rodgers will be back. Now, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles just 5 weeks ago, but on Sunday he was on the field pregame throwing passes without crutches. This man is insane. He's consistently not ruled out on returning this season, which is absolutely crazy. He said he's rehabbing over 5 hours per day, and this guy is really just a trooper. We're talking about a 39-year-old trying to come back from an injury that typically takes 9 to 12 months to recover from. Now, the idea of him coming back, I do think is wishful thinking, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see because he looks like he's making progress, even if it is forced. Things definitely aren't perfect for the Jets, especially after how this season started, but they're for sure an easy team to root for. I think a lot of people want to see Zach Wilson succeed, specifically Jets fans. I mean, you took this guy 2nd overall at one point, so seeing any signs of life from him is probably promising as a fan, and it really is important for this guy to succeed this year, or at least not have as bad of a year as he's had in years past, because this is a team that lost their star quarterback, and they've been bad for years. This was the year that they were supposed to break the chain and go on and win a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it didn't have the same start that everyone had hoped, but this is still a good team. They still have an incredible defense, like one of the best in the league. They're so good that they even managed to beat the Eagles without Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed. This is a great unit. They are the real deal. And if they can get Rodgers back and somehow make the postseason, this team could be very dangerous come January.